to another episode of the AmeriLife podcast. I'm here today with Medicare Bob, Bobby Bache, Robert. How do you want to be addressed?
Yep, I actually even have a twin brother named Larry, so I answered all those.
Awesome.
I got into the business relatively young, so I like to go by Robert back then.
Okay.
And then as I opened up my agency and started some lead generation tactics, kind of morphed into Medicare Bob, which started off as a joke. My wife made fun of me until our houses got bigger. But you can just call me, I just go by Bobby nowadays. So
Bobby.
Now that I'm getting older, I don't mind being called Bobby as much.
Gotcha. It's funny, you'd think it'd be the other way around, Bobby younger, Robert older, but
Well, it was
little switcheroo.
As a social, it was Bobby. But then when I got into the business world,
Robert.
It's hard to, like, what's your boss's name? Bobby? Like when you're
What is he, 12?
Yeah, when I was like 23. So as I got into so now it's just Bobby's
Just
fine.
Bobby. Awesome. Yeah. Well, speaking of the business, what struggles did you have when, building your agency? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so just a little backstory. I was a telesales agent for Transact from 2009, 2012. Sold about 1,200 policies a year, Medicare supplement plans over the phone. And in late 2012, opened up my agency, Senior Healthcare Direct. And lots of struggles when I first. The biggest one is cash. Also, ignorance when it came to the industry. That was my first insurance job. I came from the mortgage banking space, got into insurance, and sold over the phone. I was really good at it. That's all I knew, is I could sell Medicare supplement plans over the phone. I didn't know what an FMO was. I didn't know what an NGA or MGA. I didn't know Medicare Advantage at the time or any other products. I just knew I could sell Medicare supplements over the phone. And so when I left Transact and opened up my agency, I had to learn a lot. I had to find the right partnerships, and but the biggest barrier is cash, and understanding, in this business, it's lifetime value of a policy and the acquisition cost, target CPA, and having the cash to get there. And definitely struggled with cash as I grew. Had to raise money. Actually ran out of money 2 or 3 times. Yeah, wow. It's it's just, I think, normal with a lot of my friends that are in the same spot as you're growing an agency, because I was just reinvesting in the business over and over again.
Yeah.
And sold 20% of my business at some point, brought on a partner who helped me fund the growth that I needed as those residuals were catching up. So definitely experience, is a barrier, just understanding all the facets of this business, because once you're in it, it doesn't seem complicated. But, FMO, IMO, I still couldn't tell you the difference between those two things. But just learning that aspect, understanding and learning from other people, but the big barrier is cash.
All right, so what interested you in partnering with AmeriLife, and what opportunities did you see in that partnership with AmeriLife?
Great question. So, I scaled my agency from 2012, 2013, 2020, and we were a top performing Medicare supplement telesales agency, and we also did some Medicare Advantage as well. And the market conditions were ripe for acquisition and partnership. And so I was vetting out different partners. And what I really saw with AmeriLife was they had a unique value prop in a couple different ways. One, it's really a partnership on the structure of their deal. So they come in and they purchase majority, but you still have opportunities to grow and benefit with the business. Because one of the things you think about when you go for an acquisition or sell your business is, but I'm growing, I don't want to lose out on the opportunity to keep growing.
Yeah.
Right? Well, for the AmeriLife structure is they come in and they buy some, but you still get to benefit with the growth of the business. So that was appealing. And I also saw a huge opportunity at AmeriLife that was unique than the other partnerships that were being offered, because of the field distribution, the career distribution. And I really felt, for me, I could make a big impact on the telesales side. Mm-hmm. And the opportunity I saw was not only having an impact on the telesales side and growing and scaling that, but also life after the deal, which is very important whenever you're doing an acquisition and partnership. Mm-hmm. Is I always tell people when they're looking at selling their business, what does life look like after the deal for you? And for me, I've been in the telesales game. I kind of felt like, I've maximized those opportunities. And what I liked about the opportunity with AmeriLife was, well, after I do that, scale the agency for a couple of years, build my succession plan, I can have a life after that direct-to-consumer telesales agency. And so now, as you know, I serve as a vice president of health with Scotty Elliott and Tim Calvert. And so now I'm inside of distribution, and I get to work with tons of great partners, and I'm learning a whole other part of the business. And I have a growth mindset, so for me that was fulfilling, is okay, I built this business, let's partner, let's scale it, but then I also want to keep going in the industry after I do that.
Yeah, I don't want to stop here. I want to keep going.
Yep.
Makes sense. Now, as far as that partnership and that succession, what happened to the direct-to-consumer business you had?
So for me, selling my business and partnering with AmeriLife, it was very important that the deal wasn't just good for me. It was good for the company and the people that I put in that company and developed with.
Yeah.
And so I developed some really strong leaders in my business. David Minaya, who's now VP of Sales at Senior Healthcare Direct, which is direct-to-consumer for AmeriLife, which was the business that I partnered and sold. And Jordan Fair, who's also a sales director there. So for me, it was important that they also got the opportunity to grow and develop. And I knew by partnering with AmeriLife, they could do that. So partnered with AmeriLife in 2020. We tripled in size over the next couple of years. I knew after in year 2 that I was going to be taking on this new role. So that gave me time to work with Jim Palmer, Dave Minaya, Jordan Fair, all 3 great leaders who are now overseeing direct-to-consumer. So DTC, direct-to-consumer, that's Senior Healthcare Direct, which was the agency that I partnered and sold to AmeriLife. So now I've got really good friends running that business, and I get to partner and work with them still.
You know they're in good hands.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Now, do you have any kind of like fear, emotions behind the whole partnership? Was there any, what ifs or things that were like, am I making the right decision? Did you experience any of that?
Yeah, I talk to people now about partnering and acquisitions, and whenever you start a business and you go to sell that business, I don't know, some people might have that exit strategy in mind. To be honest with you, I didn't. I was an LOA agent making 150, 160 grand a year, and I worked a 10:30 to 7 o'clock shift, and I'd be driving to Tampa, and I would see people on a golf course at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday. I'm like, what do they do, right? And so for me, that residual income was the reason that I wanted to go on my own and start my business. But when you go to sell this business, it's, for most people, at least in my experience, this wasn't like a plan of an exit. I was just trying to build this business and do the best job I could do. But to sell that business is scary, and it is an emotional process, because every fight you have with your wife or spouse, every soccer game you miss, every basketball game you miss, 12 to 13-hour days, that you did to build this business. Because if you built your business to where it's valued enough to partner with somebody else and sell, that didn't just happen. Nobody gave that to you. You put in work. I mean, when I first started, not to sound like an old head, but I would work from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., come home, help my wife with the kids to bed, and I'd go back to work from 9 to midnight every night for 2 years. So, you're competing, and you're getting so much fulfillment out of building that business that your relationships can sacrifice. So when you go to sell your business, all those sacrifices that you put into it, it makes that a very emotional experience. Plus, so there's also the positive emotions, like, okay, who am I when I get this large sum of money?
Yeah.
And how's that going to impact my family and all those things. And then again, most people I know, they don't want the deal just to be good for them. They want the deal to be good for the people that work for them. So it's okay, is this the right partner? Are they going to come in and you have fear, are they going to come in and fire everybody?
Yeah.
Right, because I don't want them to do that. So I encourage people to have those conversations with the future partner of like, what does it look like after the deal?
Gotcha.
But yeah, it can be scary.
Now, touching point on that too, any other advice that you could give to somebody who's, in a possible partnership conversation? Like, what key things would you say that should be the most important as far as questions they should ask, or things that they should keep in mind when they're having these conversations with potential partnerships or acquisitions with AmeriLife?
Yeah, I would definitely have a 2 to 7 year conversation. Like, what does it look like year 2? What does it look like year 5? What does it look like year 7 for us? And ask every question. What does it look like for my employees? What does it look like for me financially? And what does my day-to-day look like? I can share with you, tripling our agency in size in 2 years. I remember my wife, after I sold the company and I was working directly with AmeriLife to grow that business, she said, well, you sold the company, we got all this money, I thought you were going to be working less, right? And so I wasn't, I was trying to grow that agency. So, I should have done a better job with her, because I set that expectation with AmeriLife that I would do that, but in her mind, she just thought, oh, cool.
You got to set the expectation at home too, of what to expect.
100%. But for me, and then, you just really got to think of life after the deal. you know, and integrating can be frustrating at times, but you know, you're going from driving a speedboat to riding in the Titanic.
Yeah.
So you're used to being able to do certain things really quickly. But if you have a growth mindset and you don't mind being challenged, it's a nice opportunity because you do get to learn from experience and the size of AmeriLife.
I mean, sometimes you need to step out of your comfort zone too in order to grow. So it's definitely something that's different. How long would you say from start to finish? I know when we talked to Alex last, she said it depends. It varies by partners. How long was your start to finish of the whole acquisition and partnership with AmeriLife?
So the conversations with the deal team on coming up with the deal, you know, that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
You know, and then you negotiate. Really, the long part and the expensive part is the attorneys and the contract.
Yeah. All the legalities of it all.
Yeah. So I would say it probably took about 4 months after I agreed the terms of like what we would agree to as far as the financial point of it.
I mean, that's fairly quick when you're talking about deals and partnerships and everything. What's your favorite thing about, since partnering with AmeriLife, like what has been your hands down most favorite thing about making this deal with us and working with us and joining the team?
So the money.
Let's be frank.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's nice anytime, you know, I'm in the corporate world now, and so I work with a lot of people in corporate, and sometimes like, man, this is a stressful week or stressful day. And I'm like, you know, so first of all, the money's great, but what the money does is it allows me at least, I'm not stressed.
Yeah.
You know, when you're an entrepreneur and you're building your agency, there are times where you're hoping to God you get paid today because you have payroll due tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like you were literally sometimes going to bed at night with not enough money, but you've already processed payroll for that Friday. But Mutual of Omaha or somebody's supposed to pay you that Thursday. And you're just praying to God that it shows up there Friday morning. That's stressful.
Oh
right?
my gosh.
Or having to go and go to your wife's uncle and have to sell 20% of your business to raise money. That's stressful.
You're really putting my everyday stresses into perspective right now.
It's just
like,
so like, yeah. And that's where like now it's like, oh, you know, whatever. We didn't do this or do that on time, or I'm just like, I'm good. Like we'll get it done.
We'll get it done.
So it just really allowed like, it just, you know, I haven't been in the hospital once with chest pain since I took this job. And that was a 3 or 4 time occurrence when I was running my own agency. So that's what I mean by the money. It's just like, you know, the stress aspect. But the money should be an important part.
100%.
Because, you know, that's why you do it. But then for me, the partnership and then also the growth mindset. Like I've gotten to work under Ovi directly, Tim, Ovi, our CMO. I've worked directly under Tim Calvert, our COO. And now I'm working under Scotty, our Chief Distribution Officer. And so I always say I'm a combination. I think I'm confident, which is a combination of arrogance and humility. Mm-hmm. So, but I have a growth mindset. So I'm confident that I can deliver in my track record, but I'm not too confident where I can't learn.
Yeah.
And so I'm always trying to learn from all these people around me. And so for me, that's been the biggest benefit is I'm sick in the head where I'm still working 10, 11 hours a day because it's just, to me, there's just so much going on all the time. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun still. So that was part of my conversations with Scott Perry and Jim Quinn during the acquisition process is what's life after the deal, and they've given me the opportunities to keep going, and I'm enjoying it.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day and sitting with us and just giving us a deeper look on what these acquisition and partnerships look like. If anybody ever has any questions, are they welcome to reach out to you on LinkedIn or anything for any advice or anything like that? Is that something that's open?
Absolutely. People do all the time, and everyone's welcome to do that. So that's great.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Bobby. I appreciate it.
Thank you.